Hello, everyone. Hi. Sorry to keep you waiting. I had some technical difficulties with my computer. So here we are, just a couple minutes late. Welcome. So glad to see you all this evening. Today we are talking about emotionally supporting your kids. I love talking about this topic. So very exciting, very great. I have a few different handouts. Some of them are mine in terms of a notes outline that you could ask for if that would be helpful. And there'll be some things listed on it. And then I'm hoping to give you a lot of resources about different places that I have learned what I've learned about emotionally supporting kids. So let's get started. If you are new to, Puppy wants to say hi. If you are new to this channel, these learns, or to YouTube, what you can do, you can actually participate in the conversation by getting into the live chat. That is going to be located near your share buttons. It's just a Google sign in. So if you want to type in a question, you can type in a question here. Oops. Hi. All right, there you go, right there. The dog's there to entertain you while I'm typing. All right, so you can type in a question there in the live chat, and I can see that and answer as we're going. Otherwise, if you're watching this not live, because this will be posted on replay as soon as we're done here, you can type it into the comments, and I will see that. Excuse me, end of the day. Okay, so as we look at emotionally supporting kids, this is something that's needed for all of us. Whether your kids you deem very emotionally healthy or very unhealthy or quick to have tantrums and to push up against your will, right? Willful children, or kids that are very quiet and submissive, it doesn't matter. It's really important that we get away from the idea that emotional pain is the only thing that we should address. Just like with health, prevention is the best. To do maintenance care, to do things where you are caring for your body by eating good food, for example, taking probiotics before you have to take antibiotics, not just replenishing your body with antibiotics. Not just replenishing your body with probiotics after you take antibiotics, but actually taking probiotics prophylactically, which will help you not get an infection in the first place, right? So in the same way, when we are taking care of emotions and paying attention to the signals our body is giving us, when we have emotional symptoms, that is just the same as listening to your body when you aren't sleeping well, or when you're not digesting food properly, or when you're too hungry, or not hungry enough, that type of thing, okay? So emotional addressing is not just because there is a problem. Emotional addressing is because we are human beings with emotions, just like we are human beings with hearts or stomachs. You have to keep it in well-maintained state. And then you avoid having lots of really deep problems. So, okay, now you guys are here because you care about your kids and you care about their emotions, and that's awesome. So let's go ahead and get started in terms of what we're going to talk about. This handout, by the way, has some more informational kind of at the top, and then what I talk about later on. If you want a copy of the handout after this class, you can email office@bewellclinic.net and we can send it to you. But I'm going to tell you everything. It's really just my guideline, but I do teach this class in person sometimes. So the purpose of this class is to look at what emotion, symptoms, or signals, those are interchangeable in my brain, what those are, what they might be telling you. There is a really great chart, and the first things in this handout are the top 10 relational needs. These are outlined by David Ferguson. He does a lot of ministry work in relational needs, but I feel like they're a great list. So the 10 needs that he's kind of lumped into categories of are acceptance, affection, appreciation, approval, or blessing. Just liking someone or being pleased with someone, giving your approval, not of you did a good job, but I approve of you. I view as a person. Attention, comfort, encouragement, respect, support, and security. I'll read those again in case you're writing notes and I'm talking fast. Acceptance, affection, appreciation, approval or blessing, attention, comfort, encouragement, respect, support, and security. Security also, he has in parentheses, peace, meaning to be able to be at rest, right? You're secure in your relationship. You're secure with your standing. You're secure that your needs will be cared for. He writes more about what the definition is. So if you are interested, you can look that up. I will link his website after we're done in the description. And then he also, which I love, I will say right now, I will yawn because it's very difficult to talk to a camera at 7 o'clock at night. So it's not because I'm bored with you. Okay, you can go on. He gives examples of what emotion might you see if someone is lacking of these different things. So there's a super helpful list. I got this list from my pastor from a marriage thing, so I don't know if I can share it. But if you look into their stuff, To Have and to Hold is a marriage counseling program that they have, and this is what that's from. So acceptance, for example, you may see if someone does not feel accepted that they will talk about or feel judged, offended, need to prove something, insecure or fearful. If someone is not getting enough attention, for example, they may be desperate, disconnected, lonely, frustrated. If they are needing support, they may use words like, or show the idea of being weary, desperate, frustrated, abandoned, or stressed. Now, there's going to be ones that we see in our kids more, right? So acceptance, affection, appreciation, potentially, especially older kids, but even younger kids. Approval. Do you approve of me, mom and dad? Do you think am I okay? Comfort all the time, right? You guys as parents are great at this. Someone gets hurt, either physically or emotionally, not fixing it, but just comforting, right? You just kiss the boo-boo. You don't have to go put stitches in it. It's okay. It just needs comfort. That is a need. When you don't see comfort, which is responding to a hurting person with words, feeling, and touch, you will see that person acting with bitterness. They may be depressed, confused, have grief, be gloomy, or discouraged. So I love this list. And again, I need to write for permission to share it because I just love how he lays that out so much. Those are such helpful things as we're looking with our kids of what's going on. You can't figure it out, or they're just pretty little. Well, if they are frustrated, there's only 2 or 3 needs that might fit here. So let's do that because kids get frustrated a lot, right? Frustrated comes under attention. Frustrated comes under support. And that's all I'm seeing here. There's obviously anger, which is a pretty close word. That's under respect. So if your kid is just frustrated or angry, then think about that. Do they need some attention? Can you enter into their world? Can you play their toys, look at their spaceship, all of that type of thing? And sometimes it's being mindful of another instead of, you don't have to play with them every second, right? But being aware of them and when we're in our own little world. I know it's not a child, but with my dog, that happens a lot, where I'll be in my world and he just needs my attention. Like when he was just up on my lap licking me, right? All right, so then we have anger can also be respect. And we don't think about respecting our kids necessarily by default. Depends on how you grew up, of course, but valuing and regarding another person is high value for them. Their time is valuable. Treating someone else is important and honoring them. So we can definitely do that for our kids. That's really great things to have for our kids. Support is coming alongside or helping with problems or struggles, providing appropriate assistance. And kind of what's underlying that, can't think of the word. assumed, I guess, in that is you're providing appropriate assistance, meaning you're not saying, let me show you how you can fix this problem my way, right? You are coming in and helping them. And that can be so helpful to our kids. And sure, you think about that. Of course, you'd get frustrated if you were trying to do something and you just needed help with this little piece and someone comes in and does it a completely different way. You don't feel very respected, probably, and you also did not get support. You, in fact, were told that, emotionally, you were told that support's not there. So, welcome to emotions, right? We're jumping right in. So why are we talking about such deep things? One, it's important to be responsive to our kids' emotions and our emotions. Two, we don't get taught about emotions. We don't get taught about these needs that are needs. They are correct for humans to have. We are made with aloneness needs is a line that I've heard that I really love. And those aloneness needs are because we are made to be in community with other people. We're designed to be connecting with other people. So that's really awesome. And it's not really awesome when you don't get your needs met. But the good news is there are symptoms or signals or emotional reactions and responses that you can see when those needs are not getting met. And in your kids, then you can respond and look at that and work on meeting them when possible, especially when possible outside of the situation where they may be doing a behavior like being frustrated, throwing fits, kids usually act out in anger or worry because that's kind of the only tools they have. And then with our adult friends, you can see a lot more depression or loneliness or isolation, self-isolation even. Like, no one wants to be with me. And you're like, I'm here, just call me, right? So when we have self-sabotaging behaviors or angry behaviors, action-creating behaviors that kids are trying to do, all of that happens because the person is trying to get a need met. They're trying to express something that's needed. Just like, again, when your heart is misbeating, it's because you don't have enough B vitamins or enough calcium. When your legs cramp, you are deficient in calcium or magnesium, right? So there's a need, an expression that happens because there's something missing, and we can fill in that missing part. So that's the overall thing of what we're doing and going to walk in. The other big picture idea that I take into caring for relational or emotional needs of people, both children and adults, is realizing that we are complex people with more than one part. So I'll explain that a little bit. Hopefully many of you guys have seen Inside Out, the movie. And this movie is a really fair example of the idea of parts. Parts is developed by Dr. Richard Schwartz, there we go. Dr. Richard Schwartz, he calls it internal family systems, or parts for short, or parts work. They refer to that as a fast shortcut way. Parts work is the idea that, parts work is the idea that we have multiple parts, and we say this all the time. Part of me wants to do that, but part of me is scared. Part of me wants to trust him again, but part of me doesn't think that's safe. Part of me is excited, but most of me is scared. A little bit of me wants to do that, but I'm not sure that I want to, right? So we in our own definition define that we have multiple parts. This is a healthy thing, not a schizophrenia thing or anything like that. This is a healthy, we are here as a system of our emotions that is formulated with multiple parts that have different emphases. So the Inside Out movie does this really well. There's joy and anger and disgust and fear and sadness, right? Those are the 5 parts in Inside Out. Those parts are trying to operate based on the situation. Some of them take over the control panel, right? And they are figuring out how to operate Riley, the little girl in the movie. Now, Inside Out is not exactly complete in the theory of parts work because there is something called self, capital S, self. And that is kind of you as the strong head leader person, maybe your soul. It's kind of, I don't know. but there is a self that is the grown-up, that is your age, whereas parts can sometimes, if they had hard things happen, they can get stuck at a younger age, or they can get overemphasized in an emotion, right? When we are afraid of everything, just like in Inside Out, that fear part was taking over and trying to run the ship, when it was really something that you should be having fun around. I think the example in the movie is fear gets scared to go down the railing, whereas joy wants to, right? So joy starts going down, and then fear takes over, and then joy takes back over. So that idea of that we pop in and out of parts all the time, and our kids pop in and out of parts all the time, is super important. Because, and for your own speech, it is super helpful, just try this with your kids, to say, instead of "you are really angry," or "I don't like when you take that attitude on," or "it makes mom sad when you do that," you can say instead words that are part language, which helps them identify that they are not their emotion. "I see that part of you was really sad when I said that. Can we talk about that?" Because that allows them to stay in self to talk to you about the part that got really sad. "I see part of you is really frustrated that we have to leave. And I know you're having such a fun time," right? We're doing relational care with those relational needs. You're respecting that they're a person and that you are changing their plans to play all day, right? And so you're respecting that. You're still the grown-up. You still have good decisions that you get to make for the child that is against their will, but you can still respect them in the meantime. Or bring comfort. Like, "I'm really sad that we have to leave. It is a really fun park, isn't it? But why don't we, we do have to go now because remember, we need to do this," right? So you're helping them grow up all the time. And I know I'm speaking to the choir because you parents are amazing. So we help them grow up all the time in terms of learning things, but we also want to put that piece of it. "I see part of you got really angry about that. Can we talk about why that part of you is so angry?" You're not teaching them to be schizophrenic. Believe me, this really works. This is where it's hard to not get feedback from you guys. I can't see your face to see if you're freaking out. But if you think about your families and even the things that you say, hopefully this makes sense. The main thing I like about the IFS, well, there's lots of things I like. But the main thing I want to talk about today is a few major questions that I've pulled from different emotional care techniques. Or some people call them counseling techniques, right? But emotional health techniques. There's a few lines and sentences that we can say that are super helpful to dig into the problem a little bit, but also understanding that there is a structure that is more complex than just a person. We are not an angry person who gets mad when mom tells us to do things. Nope. There's a part of us that may be active a lot, that gets mad when mom tells us not to do things, or gets really scared when mom's leaving. And that fear part may actually act out in anger because that keeps it big and strong instead of being scared and unsafe. And so when you start digging into what's going on underneath the surface, you can actually find things about the emotional reactions of your children that make perfect sense, and also make perfect sense why what you were doing wasn't working, because it wasn't about anger, it was about fear, for example, right? So it's really helpful to dig into this. Okay, when we have an emotion, or when you are talking about parts, and some people are more intuitive about that than others, and it's not a huge deal. It just is very helpful to help your child understand they are not the angry one. There's part of them that is angry, and there's part of them that is sad, just like Inside Out. They just have different roles depending on the situation. So when we are talking about emotion to our kids, or to part of our kids, we say things like, "I believe that you are feeling that way." That's essentially what we're saying to them. That's kind of an awkward phrase to say. Sometimes it works. But what we really want to say is, what you're feeling is valid. It's valid to feel, right? They are probably interpreting it wrong, right? You're saying, "It's time to go. I've given you 5 warnings. You're still freaking out about leaving the park. You shouldn't be freaking out," right? So they're interpreting it wrong. They shouldn't. They knew there's a timeline, but then you look from their perspective. They're a kid. They don't understand the timeline. They don't have the importance of the next errand you have to run. They don't understand why you can't just keep playing, because that's the most important thing to do. So there's just lots of things where you are helping your child first by listening and validating. I hear what you're saying, right? And this is in a lot of great parenting technique books. I hear what you're saying, and it's okay that you're feeling that. Or I understand why you're feeling that. Or it's okay to be angry, but you can't hit your sister, right? So you're validating the emotion, and try as much as you can. In terms of hurting other people, sometimes you have to jump in pretty quick with you can be angry, but you can't hit your sister. Right? But in other ways, when we're validating emotions, we try to just stay on the validation part for a while before we move on to the but here's how you can fix it part. Okay. So we validate, acknowledge the behavior. There are common myths of acknowledgement that are taught. Some or all of these were taught to most of us. Number one, we were taught that acknowledging it will cause the behavior to increase. Right? You should ignore behaviors you don't want. Let me ask you a question. When you were driving to the store or to work one day, and you almost got hit by a semi who was merging and not looking, and you had to do a crazy technique to get out of the way, and you almost got hit by yourself, the car next to you, you almost hit yourself into the guardrail because the semi did not see you at all. That's really scary. An emotional reaction appropriate would be adrenaline rush, fear, and reaching out for validation, support, acknowledgement, and who knows what, comfort or whatever you need. You will tell that story when you get home or when you get to go work. You will tell that story over and over until someone hears you, right? You will continue to go, what people would say, off on that crazy story over and over and over until someone doesn't say, wow, let me tell you what happened to me. Or, gosh, well, you're alive now and we're at work, so get with it, right? When people don't stop and acknowledge you because they're trying to move you past, not give you, give attention to your behavior, it doesn't help, does it? Of course not. You need to be heard. You need to be validated. And as soon as that person looks at you and says, oh my goodness, that sounds really scary. I'm really glad you're okay. What do you feel like now? What was that like? And you have an opportunity to talk about it as much as you need to. You're going to be able to move on. Probably won't even tell that story again unless it comes up at a party and you're laughing about it, right? So it's a huge thing to acknowledge. It is a myth to think that acknowledging it will cause the behavior to increase. We also can believe that validating it will cause them to hurt more or think of something that they weren't already thinking about. This is huge in terms of suicide, right? You quote, don't ask people if they're thinking about committing suicide, because if you do, you may have planted that idea in their head and then they commit suicide and it's all your fault. That's the scenario we play in our brains. And there is research that I've heard from the suicide prevention people when I took the training. That is not true. People are thinking about suicide if they're thinking about suicide. You asking about it relieves their emotions because now it's safe to talk about it. So in any kind of way, when you when someone is feeling something, they're thinking about it. You don't have to worry about bringing it up. If they're laughing and having a good time at that moment, maybe don't ruin the roller coaster moment at the amusement park, right? But if you're sitting there and you notice a sad look on their face, ask them, what are you sad about? It seems like you're really sad. Are you still thinking about how grandma died? That is really sad. Do you want to talk about it, right? Or before bed for kids, right? That's always when they want to talk about deep things. That's natural. That's when our brains are winding down and processing things and we're slower and not occupied with the things of the day. So take those times to talk about the emotions. You are not going to cause them to hurt more. You have the ability to bring comfort. Just like with your boo-boo kissing, you have the ability to bring emotional comfort, and that's really important. Okay, so don't worry about making it worse. You're just going to make it better by acknowledging. There's no benefit to revisiting the past. Just move on, right? We're at work now. Stop talking about your almost accident. You're not dead. Come on, right? That doesn't help because you haven't felt heard. It's just the way our minds work. So usually I ask others if there's other examples of myths of acknowledgement. If you have one you want to type into the comment box, go ahead and throw that in there to add to the conversation. And we'll wait just a second to see if anyone has that. So point number 1, know that we have relational needs. in review. Point number 2, be aware be aware if it's helpful to you, which I would argue that it is, that there is a structure that is more complex than just a single person. In every historical, psychiatrist, there's the id, the ego, and the superego, right? There always is plurality of self in any major philosopher or psychologist. So parts work talks about a lot more parts, but there always is an acknowledgement of being two-faced, of being double-minded, of being, indecisive. All those types of things are very common. So why are we indecisive if we're just one part? Well, we can't be. When I first heard of it, I was like, oh, that makes more sense. Okay, seeing no other myths in here, we'll go on. Point number 3 on my handout is start introducing a different language into your home and practice modeling it. Those are a few different things. One of those is, if it seems helpful to you, to do the parts language. Just saying, seems like part of you is really upset. Can we talk about that? I'd like to know why that part is feeling that way, or why that part of you is feeling like that. So that is one thing. The other one is to practice a script of acknowledging hurts. Practice acknowledging, I see that you're really sad. We do it because we're busy and it's not a habit, and it's okay. No guilt here with parenting. We're doing the best we can. We are doing things that we were taught, and until we are taught something else, what we were modeled as children growing up, for example, is what we're going to do. So that's fine. We're only responsible for what we know, but you are on this call and you know new things now. So there is hopefully different ways that you can bring this into your home. Acknowledge hurt, period. Pause. Not acknowledge hurt and explain to them why they shouldn't be hurt, or acknowledge hurt and caveat or instruct. You're going to get to that in like 6 sentences. It's okay. But first acknowledge the hurt. I'm really sad that you are missing your friends right now. Even if they're missing their friends because they didn't do what they were supposed to do. That's okay. You can be sad with them. You're not giving up ground. You are caring for them in that moment. You are being their companion. You're filling their needs. It does not mean, yeah, I'm really sad with you, and because I'm sad, I'm going to actually let you play with your friends. That's not sadness. That is guilting. That is passivity. That is all sorts of things that are not safe in a parent-child relationship for the child. Right? So, but they're different. Being sad with someone is not saying it's different. Just like forgiving someone doesn't mean that what they did was right. Actually, forgiving them is acknowledging that they did something wrong. And we are going to talk about that in a second, so I won't jump there. Okay, so things to help introduce into your home. Part of me, this is from the handout, part of me feels, so you can teach your child. It seems like part of you, you seem really upset. You want to let me know what's going on and help model that. Or you say, you know what, I yelled at you just there because part of me felt really disrespected and frustrated. But I know, because you're talking from self, I know that you love me and I don't know what you were thinking, but I know you love me and I love you. Can we talk about how you felt when that part of me yelled at you? You don't have to always say parts so much, as long as you acknowledge it kind of at the beginning. But that is a huge thing, and that's what you're modeling. It's really, really helpful. And I have some friends that do parts work, and it's amazing how much more I felt heard and that they feel heard when we talk about, part of me was super anxious when I asked you to make sure that you were going to tell me when you got that project done or when you were going to call me. And I was really anxious when I called you to follow up. I wasn't resting in a place of peace. And I actually was caring for that anxious part of me, and it actually feels better, and I wanted to apologize for that happening to you, that I was anxious towards you, right? So it's really amazing with the clarity that comes. That may go over some people's heads, I don't know, but I like it. Using I statements. This is actually from the Relational Needs David Ferguson guy. Use I statements such as, when you yelled at me, that makes me feel. So it's not saying I as a word, but you are saying how you feel, how you received it. So instead of, What's a tricky I statement? Every time you can push it on the person, right? So you can say, every time you're late, you make me feel like you don't love me, right? That is not an I statement. That is a blame statement. They may be doing something wrong. That's okay. But you can express what you are feeling, and it helps diffuse a situation. So for kids, an example may be, when you don't pick up your toys, I feel disrespected. You make me feel disrespected would be the wrong way. I feel disrespected would be the right way. So you're explaining something, but you're taking responsibility for it. You don't do it in that moment of anger or later, but you come back later to do it. Hey, when you pick up your toys, I feel really loved. I feel like you love me a lot, and that you care about what I care about, and I really appreciate that. Right? So we're not guilt tripping. You can guilt trip here. No passive aggressive. Listen to yourself and make sure you're not bringing this as a passive aggressive place. And that's just going to be where your heart is. If you are earnestly saying, I appreciate that, right? It's a deep way to say that. And in the same way, you can do negatives. When you don't pick up your toys, I feel like you don't listen to me, and that makes my heart really sad. Can we talk about that? Can we talk about how my part feels that way, and maybe what part of you doesn't want to listen to me or pick up your toys or whatever? All right, question comes in. What about when children lie about things like brushing their teeth? There's going to be a deeper reason, right? So what I would say is, first thing off the top of my head, I would look at that relational needs list and see what they feel. And unsafe comes to mind first. Why are they lying? There could be a laziness. It could be a pattern or a habit. I firmly believe that we do everything we do for a logical reason. So if we are lazy, then it's because we're too tired or our neurotransmitters are off, and I will tell you to get on GAPS diet. So just kidding. Don't be scared. But truly, actually. But if I look on just a purely relational or emotional thing, unsafe would be one. That is under affection. Insecure would be another potential. That would be under acceptance. Or approval is insecurity as well. I'm trying to think what else might be there. So how do we get to that? We would get to that because I'm assuming, right? And that's not helpful. So you would ask your child, hey, I'm not angry. I'm just curious. I know that sometimes you lie about brushing your teeth, and I want to know more about why you feel like that's needed. Are you afraid you're going to get in trouble if you forgot and then I ask you and you lie about it? Or does it hurt? Does it hurt to brush your teeth? Right? It's nice to give a really logical thing that they can go into to show them you really don't care what it is. You are after their good, right? You are after their good. So why aren't you brushing your teeth sometimes? Like, did you just get busy? Does it hurt? Are you afraid you're going to get in trouble if I remind you and you had forgotten, and then you have to lie about it because if you go do it then you get in trouble, right? So then you can talk about it, and there may be something that you can change or even apologize for. You know what? Mom does get mad when you don't brush your teeth, and that's wrong of me to be mad. It's right for you to obey me, and that's really important, but I know you're a kid and you're learning, so let's work on this, and let's both work on our different responses. So that'd be one thing. So that kind of be in the insecurity, fear kind of world. If it's physical, obviously that's something to address. If it hurts to brush your teeth. If they are being lazy because it's not important to them, there's a couple things. You can appeal to them to do something for their own body, as well as doing something out of respect and love for them. But you can't make someone love you more and obey you because they love you, right? You have to see what is underneath. What is the barrier in relationship? And it may be something completely unrelated. Well, it seems like you always love, you always take so-and-so out to the park and you never take me out to the park. And right. So there's an underlying reason to not be loving. So there's that. So does that make sense? So the simple answer is, without guessing, it's not about the lying. It's not about not brushing your teeth. Those are symptoms. Those are emotional symptoms. I don't see something on this that's specifically that they're lying, but I would kind of go with that unsafe in a relationship kind of idea, insecure, unsafe, and then see what fits the most, and ask them what it is. Try to ask, be in a place of curiosity, and not curiosity and calmness, right? It doesn't matter what your answer is. I just really want to know what's going on there, what's underneath that. You can do some appealing to yourself, about yourself. Again, when you lie about brushing your teeth, it really makes me feel whatever it is. It may make you feel like a bad mom because they don't trust you. Depending on the age of the kid and how much they understand that, and watching out again for especially your personalities, for kiddos that they want to please you, so they're actually going to just package themselves up and put themselves in the behavior box because they're disappointing you. You really want to watch out for that. And so if you have that personality of child, like I was, I'm sorry. It's hard, but you can get through that. That's totally fine. So if you have that personality, just be careful about putting your needs on them, because they will just take that and decide that they need to care for your needs more. So you would more want to go to the realm of, yeah, it's fine. It doesn't matter to me if you brush your teeth. It makes my heart sad when you lie about it, but I'm curious about why you think that's important. What's going on under there? Hopefully that helps. This is hard to do that feedback. Sorry. Okay. So I statements can be helpful, but also make sure you're saying the right ones, not saying the blaming the other person and shifting all the blame onto them ones. Hopefully that makes sense. The other one is the beautiful, beautiful concept that as adults, our job is to help, as any kind of authority, our job is to help process trauma. You're welcome. Processing trauma you can do with your child. They can go through a very traumatic experience. And if you help them understand truth in it, it will not be a trauma to them. They could be left at the mall and for an hour, something very traumatic. There could be, bad things happen to them. Whatever happens, if you explain truth to them, I will say it. It's a weird example to use, but it's kind of our world right now. And I feel prompting to say it. So one example of helping process trauma that is every parent's nightmare would be if there is some kind of abuse that happened, right? Or even just a weird touch, stranger, whatever. If you explain to them, not brush it under the rug and it's not a big deal, but you protected them by removing them from the situation, and you tell them that was not okay, that happened, that person has a problem and they are going to get in trouble for it. They're not going to be burdened with things like, what did I do? What did I do wrong? It was probably my fault, because grown-ups are right? That's what kids think. Grown-ups are right, so it must have been me that did something, because grown-ups do the right thing, right? So when you can step in and say, nope, that was a bad person who did a bad thing, then that trauma is in many ways removed. There may be things to deal with later, but that is there. So same with getting lost, right? It is mom's fault that I didn't hold on to your hand, because let's be honest, parents, it's really hard. But unless you have a kid that willfully and was old enough and willfully walked away and hid, when you had a toddler wander off, that's never the toddler's fault, right? I know you guys know that. We can, in our fear, put blame, even that we don't mean 5 seconds later, right? From our fear, our anxiousness, or our anger that came from fear, say things. So as much as you can, don't say that. And if you do say that, take it back. Apologize for what you said. Mommy yelled, and they can be 2. It's okay. They understand. So talk to them. It's great. Mommy put you down. I should have held your hand. I should have made sure that Dad knew he was taking care of you, whatever the situation was that they got lost. That was my fault for not taking care of you. And God kept you safe, or whatever you want to say there, right? And You can't promise you're never going to do it again because you're human, but you can tell them, this is what we did, and you're okay. And mom will always find you again. Right? So you can process through that trauma so that it is not trauma, as much as possible, at least. Okay, so help it make sense. Pain is just trauma is just pain that is not processed properly. There's a good alliteration. Okay, number 4, another language practice is forgiveness. There is a script that is in the marriage conference or marriage material again that I really like. It is a script, and you say these things and you practice them until you understand them as a family. We had a really good discussion about this in the idea of forcing to say words that people don't mean versus taking time to change the heart. And that is a really good thing. There is a balance. Again, we're teaching our kids lessons, and sometimes we have to do things that we don't want to do. But again, if they are saying words because they know that gets them out of the situation, but their heart doesn't change, then later, like if it's a pattern repeating, go do a little deeper digging. Why do you always hit Sally, your sister? Why is it hard to apologize? Why are you always rolling your eyes when you apologize? What do you think that apologizing says about you? Do you think that it means that they did something that wasn't right? Are they getting away with it? It's usually why we don't forgive people, because we're afraid they'll get away with it. Or it makes it right, or we have to hold them accountable. So dig into that anger a little deeper if it becomes a pattern. Why can't they forgive? Sometimes it's just you need to get away from the moment and emotionally let down a little bit before you can apologize. So it's okay to take a little time to do that. It's also okay to develop a pattern of doing that, but be aware of the heart. If the heart doesn't change, words don't matter, right? Here's the script. The first person says, I was wrong too. This is great. And this is a great script for you as a parent. It is okay to apologize to your kids. They know you're not perfect. They are going to love you and respect you and grow up to be better people, better if you apologize to them, because they're seeing a behavior modeled. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to pretend that you're perfect, right? You make mistakes, you forgive, or you ask for forgiveness, the other person forgives, and you move on. That's a great pattern to learn. If more people in our world learned that. Anyway, I won't soapbox, but I was wrong to blank. When you start with I was wrong to, it's really hard to go to the but you did this. It's not my fault because part of it, which is great. So I was wrong to yell at you. I was wrong to, I can't think of any other things besides yell at you. There are so many other things. Kids, right? I was wrong to take your toy. It wasn't my turn. I should have asked, whatever. I imagine it made you feel. This is really great because this helps kids practice learning, and you can talk about these before they actually say it to the other person, right? You can go in different rooms and have a conversation. When you took Tommy's toy, how do you think that made him feel? Empathy makes you think of the other person. And that is the opposite of what happened whenever fights happened and toys got stolen and all of that kind of thing. So come back, right? I was wrong to take your toy. I imagine that made you feel sad. It doesn't have to be complicated. Bad. Disrespected if they're a little older, right? Will you forgive me? Is a very challenging thing to say, will you forgive me? And the other person says, yes, I forgive you. Or, no, I need to talk more. I need to feel heard in something more. Sometimes we ask the question in this script. Well, actually, it's next. So, yes, I forgive you. And then the first person says again, thank you or whatever. And then, is there anything else you want me to know about how you felt in that situation? Something very similar to that. Obviously, you're going to modify it for kids, but I was wrong to blank. I imagine it made you feel blank. Will you forgive me? Okay, so script. Person number 1, I was wrong to blank. I imagine it made you feel blank. Will you forgive me? And the other person, yes, I forgive you, or no, I need to talk more. Right? The goal is forgiveness and restoration of relationship, especially between everyone, but it's really important when you're interacting with your kids every day or your kids are interacting with each other every day. And then the first person, after yes, I forgive you, or no, I need to talk more, and then you talk more until you come to, oh, I understand now. I was wrong to take your toy. You let me know, or I now know that it made you feel like a bug. It doesn't matter what it is, whatever their words are for what it was. It made you feel like a bug that I wanted to squish. Will you forgive me? So we'll work on that. Then we forgive. Then the first person receives that forgiveness. Thank you. And is there anything else you want me to know about what happened? So that's a very beautiful thing. I recommend doing it in your adult relationships as well. It can be a little tricky because people can sometimes get offended when you say, yes, I forgive you. Because again, forgiveness means you're acknowledging they did something wrong. We usually say, no, it's okay. It's no problem. I really make sure it's a struggle, and it stresses me out because I don't like conflict. I don't like making people feel bad, but I understand the importance of being forgiven in my own heart, and I understand how important it is for other people. It restores relationship. And I really want someone to hear, yeah, that was really hard, but I forgive you. And it's really nice to hear that back. And sometimes you have conversations with your spouse or close friends about this type of thing before it happens. But also a lot of people will pick up on it if you just model saying that, apologizing to them properly. All right. So in sum up, kids have emotions just like adults have emotions, and their emotions are just as valid. Their perspective is different than ours, and that's okay. I heard somewhere, and it's great, someone taking a toy away from a child is like someone taking your phone away from you or a truck away from you, right? It is really hard. Kids actually do amazingly well for how often they are inconvenienced from their plans. And some kids make more plans than others and are thus more feeling inconvenienced. But think about how hard it is most of the time for us when you have a plan and then something happens and it changes. The store that you needed to go to is closed. It's Sunday and Chick-fil-A isn't open, right? You have things that happen and it's very difficult to adjust. And we have learned things, and we also know we can't throw a fit, lay on the ground, and kick our feet, but that's what we want to do sometimes, right? So kids are learning. They're learning they have to have their emotions in an appropriate manner, but we never want to teach them that they're not allowed to have that emotion. Right? The emotion is appropriate, and it is fine. The action needs to be a certain thing, right? And as we grow older, you can't punch someone in the face if you're mad at them. It's okay to be mad at them, but you can't punch them in the face unless they're hurting you, right? There are situations where that is okay, but you can't punch people in the face just because you're mad that they said something, right? So emotion is fine. The action we learn and train to be different, and we help them practice. But try as much as you can to not squash their emotion or the validity of their emotion. In fact, validate it. Validating it helps them hear you and give you an opportunity because they trust you and they believe you're for them. They believe you approve of them. They believe you accept them. They're going to want to know what you would do. They're going to later listen to the thing that you suggest for them to do. So when we validate, we become on their side. And now we can help them solve a problem as opposed to telling them they need to fix it themselves. And for our kids, that's super important. Okay. I'll kind of chat for a second if there are any questions, but I'm so thankful for those of you that jumped on. Again, you can sign in with your Google chat under live chat, which is by the share buttons, and ask a question if you have one. Anything's fair game, even if it's kind of related and we didn't talk about it. If you want to donate to me continuing to teach classes, you can go to bewellclinic.net/events, and there's a donate button all over. So that just goes to the same bucket and just to class events, which we appreciate. If not, that's totally fine. Also, this is posted online, so you can share this with your friends and they can watch it later. What else would I be going to say? There's one more thing. Oh, so I'll post the different, but David Ferguson, top 10 relational needs. To Have and to Hold is the marriage materials, but I'll post the website to that. Dick Schwartz is the Internal Family Systems, or IFS, or parts work person. We do have a book club for people that are local that you can jump in with us. We're actually just starting the book next Monday the 24th. Right? Yeah, Monday the 24th at 4:30 at Be Well Clinic office. We are doing an hour, 4:45 to 5:45. We're doing an hour talk. It's okay if you haven't read the book. We're just on chapter 1, so you can catch up. We do about a chapter a week. We throw other things in. We practice doing parts work and TPM, another thing, and relational needs for ourselves and for our kids, so we can have more tools for being emotionally healthy. So you can jump onto that. I see the question coming in. Let me finish my thought, and I will jump to that question. So we have that. I'm also potentially up for starting an online group for people who are distance. It's much better in person, but not everyone who's connected with us is here. So if there's enough interest, I may consider that. So if you are interested, you can email us, office@bewellclinic.net. Okay. Question, what about kids saying they are trying even though it is obvious they haven't? Again, and I know you know this, but looking into the heart. What is the real reason? This is where that question that I didn't mention yet today, but a great question to dig a little deeper is, what would happen if? What would happen if you did try hard? So you'd have to get a little bit into the conversation. But it seems like they're not okay to trying hard. So I would say that. I know you feel like you're trying hard. One, check and see if they are. Maybe they do think they're trying hard. If that isn't true, or if they do think they're trying hard, then you can help them see what's going on. So that may be okay, does it seem really hard because you're really tired? Do you think that it would be good to take a break and come back? Or if they do feel like they're trying hard and they're not tired, dig in a little bit deeper. Is it actually hard for them? So they're not trying for a reason, right? So they're not trying for a reason. The behavior they're doing is for a logical reason. So help me understand it a little more. It seems to me that you're not trying, but you're saying that you are trying. So it must be harder for you than I'm seeing, or is there something else going on? Can you help me understand a little more? So in all of these things, digging a little deeper into that. One thing that may be helpful is sometimes things are hard if we don't know what to do. So maybe what you don't know what to do, what they are doing is hard because they haven't been taught what to do. So maybe what they need to do is have you work through and go, I believe you that you think you're trying hard, right? Validation, because it's true. What they're saying is for a reason. I believe you that you don't think you're trying hard, or something like that. I'm going to take you at your word. And there is a expectation of trust that I think is okay to put on our kids, to say, I'm going to take you at your word. I love you. If you are changing your mind right now and you're going to say that you're actually lying to me, you're not trying hard, I love you. It's okay. That'd be great. Let's talk about that. If you really do believe that you're trying hard, I want to help you to see that it's not so hard. So are you trying hard, or is there something else going on? Right? Give them that out to get out of the lie if they're in a lie. And if their true belief is this is really hard, or that they're trying hard, then you can dig in a little deeper. Maybe they don't know what to do. Maybe they don't know what trying looks like. So maybe they need to be taught, when we are learning a math problem, here's the steps you go through. Or what I think of as trying hard would be doing these things and actually just teaching them a new behavior. So that would be a couple thoughts about how to maybe get deeper into that. Okay, another question. Or they didn't do something on purpose, or they did something mean to their siblings when it appears they did. They didn't do something on purpose. Oh, when they say they didn't. Okay, so building on the other question. So I would say that one, like doing something mean to a sibling, a behavior is a behavior, right? So you can validate and acknowledge the emotion, but the behavior, like, I know that you were angry, or let's talk about what emotion it was. So let's get off the table. Hitting sibling is not okay, or taking the toy is never okay. But I understand that you did that for a reason. And I'd love to hear more about that. What is the reason that you did that for? And there may be more of the story that comes out, right? And then you also make sure that you validate the story on both sides, depending on what the story is. But remember, their emotional reaction and response is true. The situation that they perceived may be wrong. They may be perceiving it wrong. But their emotional response is true to how they emotionally responded. So even if sister was playing with it, walked away for 2 seconds, comes back and plays with it more, or is upset that Tommy was playing with it now, well, that's because, to their perception, they just left the room for a second and they came back and Tommy's playing with the toy. Well, Tommy is upset because he all of a sudden got yelled at and said that he was not, he played with the toy that sister just saw. Sorry, that he saw no one playing with, right? To him, it was an open toy that no one was playing with, but to her, she just left. So then there's a behavior that happened because of the fight there, but there's always a deeper story or a deeper belief. And sometimes that deeper belief, honestly, is also because of emotional strain in the family or a parent-child relationship. I'm trying to remember the book. There was a beautiful story in one of the books. I actually think it might have been the Relational Need book. And he talked about how his 2 sons were just fighting constantly. And he purposed to take each of them out once a week or every other week or something like that on a special time with dad. And after that started, they stopped fighting significantly. So again, getting deeper into what is the root, what is the belief that's causing a behavior that is an overreaction or a lying, or even a behavior towards a sibling where they feel like they have to fight for their place in the pack, or they have to grab what they have because no one's going to give that to them, or even they're feeling sad and they need support in that sadness. And then you can bring comfort, right? It's not always yelling at them. It's not always your fault. It could just be the situation is hard and you can bring comfort in that, which will then fill the relational need, which then means they won't have to do those emotional behaviors that they were doing to get the relational need filled because it's now filled. So comfort would be bitterness, depressed, confused, grief, gloomy, discouraged. So that bitterness can manifest in a lot of different ways. When we're bitter, we're just, right? You're a little crab and you snap at everybody. So bitterness could be there, and comfort could be the solution to that. So you won't know that until you kind of dig in a little deeper. So that is always helpful and recommended. But that is an idea. So biggest questions, and as 2 of you ladies are studying more into this, and as we get into more study, you're going to we're going to work on those questions to dig a little deeper. Stuff that we use on ourselves in parts work, also we can use for our kids to get a little deeper into what's going on. Also TPM. So great questions. Hopefully those are good answers. This is a hard class to teach, not in person. But I wanted to get out here. So hopefully this is helpful to people and people in the future. All right. If there's no other questions, wait just a second. If you're typing one, just type wait really quick or something like that. Otherwise, I'm going to be done here. Sign off. You are welcome. This was helpful. Thanks for hanging in there with my yawning. And I will see all of you guys on another live or at another time. Okay. Let us know if you want to join. If you're not already connected with us for the Inside Out group is what we call it. Let us know. All right. Have a good night, everybody. Bye.